So I want to start off by saying welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, welcome. If you're a fanatic of everything entertainment, then this is the channel for you. But in today's movie review, we'll be talking about 1964's Ghidorah, the Three-Headed Monster. So let's get into it. So before we get into it, I just want to say that I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce the titular character's name. I don't know if it's Ghidorah or Ghidorah, because in other reviews and the two movies that I've seen with a character in it, I've heard people pronounce it Ghidorah or Ghidorah, so I'm not entirely sure. Let me know in the comments below what you call our titular character. But anyways, the way this is going to work, I'm going to start my negatives and work my way up to the positives. So the first thing I want to talk about is the kaiju fight sequences in here. They don't entirely pay off for me, and I hate to say it, I only get enjoyment out of like a 2-second scene, and that's like where we see Godzilla and Rodan are throwing rocks at each other, and Mothra is just standing there observing, and I found it quite hilarious. And speaking of Mothra, I hate that we see her in the larva state. We don't see her in her moth form. I'm just not entirely a fan of the larva design, and I hate that that's mostly all that we see of her, and I just not a fan of that. I know these movies are cheese galore, especially since these are from 60 years ago, but Rodan's design in here is just way too goofy to take seriously, and I don't see him as a threat whatsoever. I feel as if this film has that Hellraiser sequel problem where they shoehorn Godzilla in here, because Godzilla's only in this movie for like 5-10 minutes, and I found that to be a bit bullshit. But then again, this is called Ghidorah, the Three-Headed Monster, so it does make sense for him to show up very little. But if this is part of the Godzilla franchise, I just wanted more Godzilla. Like, I just feel like they shoved Godzilla, Rodan, and Mothra in here just to make some more money. King Ghidorah could have been his own thing while having space and alien elements included, but I feel as if it didn't really fit in this film. I know they expand upon that in future films, and fingers crossed that I'll enjoy those films a bit more than this one. While this film is worthy of having all of our kaiju monsters in it, I do think the story is a bit lacking, especially with the side plot involving the princess, but it does end on a positive note, so I'll give it that, but I'm just not a fan of it. Once again, there is a buttload of blue screen scenes in here, and it just looks atrocious. Also, there is actual action figures in here. They've done that in previous films as well, where you see like actual action figures in the distance, and it just doesn't pay off for me. Miniatures and action figures are two totally different things for me when it comes to film, because miniatures for the most part look really good, but when you see an actual action figure in the fight scenes, it just took me out. Once again, the pacing is something that I'm complaining about, because I don't want to sound like that person, but we don't see any kaiju until over the halfway point, which I thought was... I don't think that was the right decision to make. But last but not least, the ending is something that I also have cons with, because the fact that this is actually King Ghidorah's movie, Rodan and Mothra and Godzilla all beat his ass, but he just simply flies away after he gets his ass beat. And I was like, are you serious? Like, you're really just going to let him fly away? I know this is his own film, and I know he's coming back in a future film, but I don't get why they ended it that way. Like, he's going to come back and cause more chaos either on Earth or a different planet, and that's exactly what happens. Now on to the mix section with this review. Honestly wish we had a bit more miniature scenes in here, because it's always a blast watching scenes with miniatures. Like I've said in so many reviews thus far, it feels very nostalgic when I see miniatures in film, because like I've said before, the Three Stooges used to use a lot of miniatures, and it just brings back so much enjoyment for me. I just wish we had a bit more in this film, because it just felt lacking, but the ones that we do have are pretty good. But there is a shot of a car driving on a dirt road that honestly took me out of the film because it looked so stupid. But other than that, I think the miniature scenes in here are great. I just feel like they were lacking. Godzilla's design, once again, is something I'm mixed on, because it reminds me a bit of the previous entries, and even those don't look great. But I do like that we get to see Godzilla move his eyes with this design. I thought that was really cool that they added that movement in here and put a little bit more of emotion in it. But with that being said, let's move on to the things that I did like about this film. While I am mixed on Godzilla's design in here, I am a really big fan of Ghidorah's design in here. I thought it looked really badass, and I can't wait to see him come back in future installments. Regardless if it's a Toho production or an American production, I'm really excited to see all interpretations of this character. The cinematography in here is also a highlight. It's honestly the best cinematography that we've got in a Godzilla film so far. Like, there is so many scenic shots, so many wide angle shots, so many close-ups that just look really great, and I wish there was a 4K of this because I think it would look amazing, especially with all the scenic shots and everything. But my favorite thing about this film is like all the Godzilla alumni that show up in this film. Whether it be actors who portrayed Dr. Yamane and Dr. Serizawa in the original film, or the Peanuts who portrayed the Shobijin in the previous film, or the male and female lead of the previous film as well. Like, there is so many familiar faces that show up in here, and it was a blast seeing them, and it was like that Leonardo DiCaprio meme where that, that's how it felt watching this movie, considering that I'm still fresh on the other films. And it's honestly the main reason why I put this film over King Kong vs. Godzilla, which is my least favorite so far. That's the only reason that this is the second worst in here, because if it wasn't for these characters, I probably would have put this below King Kong vs. Godzilla. But with the Godzilla alumni, it was just, it was an awesome time seeing everybody show up. And you can never go wrong with Yuriko Hashi, who is very easy on the eyes. I'm glad that Mothra, Rodan, and Godzilla worked together in this film because, like I've said so many times before, they don't feel like worthy opponents. In these films, they might in future installments with different eras, but so far they don't feel like worthy opponents for Godzilla, in my opinion. But I'm glad that they all worked together because Ghidorah wouldn't have been defeated otherwise. But with that being said, I'm going to be giving Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, an overall grade of a 55%. I know a lot of people really like this film that are Godzilla fans, but this one wasn't entirely for me. Like I said, the only reason why I put this one over King Kong vs. Godzilla is the Godzilla alumni that show up in here. I thought that was fantastic. But it is worthy of a watch, even though I do have it so low on my ranking. I probably won't ever watch it again, but if you're new to the franchise, I do recommend this one because it's not the worst. It is towards the bottom, but there are some enjoyment to be had with this film. But as always, I just want to say thank you guys for everything that you do, and I hope to see you in the next video.